Let's talk about the main event. The main event is a rematch also. It also ended weirdly as the co-main event ended previously. But we have a bit more data out of the main event's previous fight than with the co-main event. And we can kind of make some conclusions from that. Okay, if the fight was not a rematch and the fight was a brand new fight, this time point in history, I would say that Leon Edwards would probably comfortably be a favorite as well, at least on paper. Obviously, it's MMA and anything can happen, but I think it's a fair thing to say that Leon Edwards, at this point in his career, is the favorite in this fight. But given the fact that we have the previous match between the two where Leon was also favorite going into the fight, I think we can make even stronger case that Leon Edwards is supposed to be the more expected winner in this fight. And the reason why is because if he would be favored anyway, now we have the first match which ended with an eye poke, but before the eye poke, I would say that Leon Edwards was the more dominant fighter in that fight, and he even hurt a couple of times Bilal Muhammad. And I think from that we can draw quite a bit of confidence that he is supposed to come out with his hand raising in this fight as well. Bilal had some moments, showed some IQ in that fight, especially after being hurt, but in every exchange and after every little bit of success that Bilal Muhammad had in that fight, Leon Edwards showed way more ferociousness and way more power and aggressiveness against Muhammad. I think Bilal in this fight, what he could change is to be more of an aggressor. But I don't think that's as easy of a job as it may seem, because when you don't have enough power to gain a lot of respect from your opponent, it's hard to put them on their back foot and have them backing up, especially when they have a lot of power to back you perhaps up. Maybe one area where Muhammad have a little bit of an advantage is, again, maybe this big if, might be wrestling. He may create some disruptions in the fight from his wrestling, even though he's not a real wrestler, but he has decent level wrestling to kind of tie up every once in a while Edwards. But to think that he can actually out wrestle Edwards, who fought much higher level wrestlers and did well with them and won against them, one being obviously Kamaru Usman, I think that's implausible and not to be expected. And on top of that, Edwards probably has an advantage in every other field of mixed martial arts, and overall he's riding high on his wave, and I expect him to be the winner of the fight. My only concern for Edwards is the fact that he may be underestimating Muhammad a bit, because he has called him a bum on Twitter, and he dismissed his chances for the title shot. So I hope this is just antics and he took him seriously and he prepared well for him. In this case, I'm fairly confident that as much as you can be confident in MMA, I'm confident that Edwards will come out the winner, especially in his hometown. The co-main event, another very interesting fight. The rematch, a freak accident, just as much as the main event on this card. So what can we draw from the previous fight? Obviously, there was the fight where Aspinall got injured, and then he had this resurgence and kind of went to the top of the world, won the heavyweight championship, the interim one obviously, but a lot of people now view this as the real title defense of the fight, because John Jones is out, and you can make a fair point about that perhaps. So a lot of people will view him as the real champion if he wins this fight. I think only thing that can counteract That narrative is if Jones comes back real quick and fights Aspinall rather than Stipe Miocic. In this case, then obviously if Jones wins, then there is no dispute, or if Aspinall wins, then there is no dispute. But this is a significant fight for the heavyweight division. No matter how you want to look at it, even if let's say John Jones comes back and fights Stipe Miocic and defends the belt, the real lineal belt, and then vacates the belt and leaves the division, then you will most likely have the winner of this fight as the champ for quite a bit, right? Especially if it's Aspinall, because there's a lot of hype on Aspinall, and if he can overcome this challenge of Curtis Blades, which is physical challenge one, and also the psychological challenge because of the rematch where he got hurt, and oftentimes that can leave scars on the mind of a person, and not just mind, obviously the body as well. We have seen Aspinall not be bothered by the injury after coming back, but again, let's see how his mind also reacts to seeing the person who he got hurt against. Especially will he employ the leg kicks the same way, etc., etc. Before the injury, what we can look at is how aggressive Aspinall was, which normally would be expected. Something, if this was a clean slate, I would expect him to do the same. Even now, I kind of expect Aspinall to be quite a bit of aggressive because that's his fighting style and it has worked for him a lot of times. This may also be a path for Aspinall to overwhelm Curtis Blades as well. But let's see, because in the first fight, we saw Curtis Blades countering over the top some of the attacks by Aspinall, especially like knee attacks, so like flying knees, and also the leg kicks, and he connected with a couple of those. So let's see how much respect Aspinall will give those techniques, and if he will not give respect, let's see if Curtis Blades can actually capitalize on that moment and actually hurt Aspinall legitimately this time and get him with a punch or something, some type of strike, and put him down instead of the freak accident. I think the psychological damage which the previous fight may have caused will be negated by the hype train that Aspinall is on. So let's see. I think it probably will act like a clean slate. He will have also resolved to get that fight back, get that loss out of his record, which I mean, not really, but I mean, kind of close the chapter in his life, and get the big win, which would put him at the top of the heavyweight division for a lot of people, and maybe even have him be able to campaign for the Jones fight, which would be a massive fight, historically, also financially as well. Probably Tom Aspinall's fight to lose, but Curtis Blades is also known for being the guy who spoils a lot of parties, especially after his last fight against Jalton Almeida, where he was being beaten. He was also probably the underdog in that fight, and he was being out wrestled, even though he's a wrestler, and he was being dominated. But he's a very dangerous and very heavy handed and elbowed guy. So let's see. Anything can happen, as we saw in the last fight. But those are my thoughts.